Hey guys, Paul here. So today I wanted to talk about what I feel is probably the most dangerous, worst part of the Yu-Gi-Oh game board. I don't know, that's a weird way to put that. Basically, I'm talking about the deck. Why I think that cards that interact with your deck are just ripe for abuse and historically have been some of the most problematic cards that this game has ever seen. So, man, I don't know where to start because it's a problem today, but it's kind of been a problem for ages, but we'll start with today. So, when you think of some of the most obnoxious cards in the game right now, what comes to mind for you? Maybe Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, maybe Crystron Halqifibrax, maybe Artifact Scythe, maybe the, Brave engine, I don't know. There's plenty, but a lot of that stuff really originates from monsters that can interact with the deck or spells that can send things from the deck. So let's just take them one by one. Fusion Destiny. This card is very good. It sends the materials from the deck, and I think that this kind of breaks a rule of fusion summoning that I'm baffled it has been allowed to be broken this easily. So yeah, it sends its materials just straight from the deck to the graveyard, which means that you don't have to have anything in your hand. You activate the spell and you summon, Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. You get to send Dasher and Celestial or whatever two Destiny heroes you're running from your deck to the grave, and then boom, right? Like there he is. And then you combine this with cards like Predaplant Vert Anaconda, which has its own set of problems, like the fact that it's generic, but we're not going to talk about that because generic cards are also a problem. Maybe they're more of a problem in the deck. I'm not sure, but that'll be a separate video. Anyways, Predaplant Vert Anaconda sends the fusion spell straight from your deck. That's problem one. And then problem two is that there are fusion spells like Fusion Destiny that send from the deck. And Fusion Destiny isn't the only culprit here because we've also got to look at things like Red Eyes Fusion. Now I know not as many people are playing Dragoon right now because Phoenix Enforcer has kind of proven itself to be a little bit better and have less risks associated with its engine, but this was still a problem back then. Red Eyes Fusion sends materials from the deck, and that just makes it a free fusion summon with like very little risk. I guess you have to risk drawing some brick cards, but let's face it, that's a risk that's far outweighed by how easy it is to make Vert Anaconda and how useful, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is. So I think that the problem with a lot of these cards isn't necessarily that, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is like broken and needs to be banned, but rather that spells should not fusion summon from the deck. And you'd think that'd be the end of it. You'd think Konami might have learned a lesson, but then we have things like Branded Fusion that's just around the corner, coming out in a structure deck very soon, so everybody gets their hands on it, and it sends its materials from the deck. So it's just kind of insane to me that Konami hasn't realized that this seems to be like a traceable problem. Cards that send stuff from the deck are not great. And that's not the end of it because we've also got certain Link monsters, many of which have ended up on the ban list, that summon things straight from the deck. You guys remember Nightmare Mermaid? Yeah, that was problematic. You got to summon a Nightmare monster straight from the deck. This led to like Ibly locks. This led to, full Orcus combos off of just the ability to have any two monsters and make a Nightmare Mermaid from them. And just summoned like the card straight from the deck, so it made it where like any card could do it. There's other Link monsters that are other, sort of examples, like let's say Guard Dragon LP. This one's been one of the nastiest in recent, memory. There's plenty of obnoxious dragon monsters that you would want to just summon straight from the deck. And like there's just no shortage of them, and Guard Dragon LP just literally was like, here, just get one. A monster from your deck. Not cool. And I mean, even stuff like Isolde, right? She's not like in the hot seat as much today, but don't be fooled. Like I remember there were times when people were like, okay, Isolde maybe needs to be one of the ones getting banned. Not saying these happen like now, but I mean, that's been a thing in the past, and it might very well be a thing in the future. Again, when like a new warrior archetype comes out, or anything happens with, they go equip spells, it sends equips from the deck, and then just summons a warrior from the deck. And it's crazy to me that this is allowed. Also, Crystron Halqifibrax, it summons a tuner straight from your deck. There's a number of very powerful tuners that either can make Halqifibrax easily or are very powerful targets to bring out with its effect. In fact, Halka Fibrax is responsible for many tuners being put on the ban list. Even cards like MX Saber Invoker have found their way banned because they just get cards from the deck for free. Lavolval Chain is another one that's like been banned because it can just send things from the deck, anything that you want, at like very, very low commitment. So to me, it kind of feels like in Yu-Gi-Oh, things that send from the deck or summon from the deck are just sort of recipes for disaster. Now, that isn't to say that it's always problematic. I mean, there's certainly examples of cards that do that aren't like too bad. Like, you know, I know some people wanted Quick Launch to be like banned or limited, and some people are even concerned that like E-Tail is at 3 now. Those are ones that are like quite strong, and I mean, I don't want to like defend the fact that they're like super fair and like fun cards, but they're all right. Or now, I guess. But like, you know, just anytime a spell or something can sort of like send stuff straight from the deck to the grave or summon stuff straight from the deck to the field, or even, you know, just add stuff from deck to hand, those tend to be some of the nasty, nasty cards in this game. I'm starting to think that it might be just one of the worst like things to interact with. And so for card design's sake, I would argue that Konami should not be really doing them like anymore. Like there should not be fusion spells that fuse from the deck. There should not be link monsters that summon free things from the deck. There shouldn't be really any monsters that interact so cleanly and nicely with the deck like this. There's other examples we can go on. So there's things like, you know, Artifact Dagda, which, you know, can like grab Scythe, and like that's sort of its own problem. Scythe, for a number of reasons, is not okay, but the fact that it has always been basically tied to Artifact Sanctum, which also grabs it from the deck, has kept it somewhat in check, but now you literally can search it and even trigger it twice. So, I don't know, I just feel like the deck is such a dangerous place, and I'm always surprised that Konami hasn't sort of learned its lesson around designing these cards like this. But there's, like I said, there's like cards on the horizon that also use the deck, so I don't know when this ends, or maybe Konami just thinks that this is all perfectly fine and it's just like how it's gonna be, and you know, cards that do something involving the deck are just like here to stay. I don't know. So that's kind of my little short rant or whatever on just cards that send from deck and like use the deck as like materials and stuff like that, with little to no real restriction. Yeah, I think it's just not great. I hope Konami stops it. There's other arguments for things that are perhaps worse, like generic extra deck monsters. Some might say that's like the biggest sort of evil in Yu-Gi-Oh! And the cause of a lot of abuse, and maybe that is. So that might be another video that I might make in the future, because I have thoughts on it. So let me know what you guys think. Do you feel like cards that interact with a deck like this, like just sending straight from deck or like summoning straight from deck, are healthy and fine and good, or do you think they're sort of problematic? I lean towards problematic. I don't think that in all cases it's the very worst, but oftentimes it can feel that way, at least in the most extreme of examples. It's like a trend that you sort of notice. All right, well, that's it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and other things you'd like to hear me talk about. Subscribe to APS Plus, because we're trying to do more videos here as well. That's gonna be it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Fast turn.